Warning. This video will contain major story spoilers for FNAF Secret of the Mimic. You have been warned. My name is the fucking Mimic, oh yeah.
Check, check, check. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Good news.
Five Nights at Freddy Secret of the Mimic is peak.
Man, where do I begin? This game I was admittedly worried about before it launched. The state of 3D free roam FNAF from the official pool of games didn't exactly give off a good first impression. Security Breach, while a game I adore, was just a slow motion car crash from beginning to end. Ruin was better, but I can't help but feel like it was missing something. Maybe threatening enemies. They say the third time's the charm, so how is Secret of the Mimic? I'm gonna be so real when I say this, but this game is incredible. I don't think I would be able to finish this video if I talked about literally everything I liked, so I'm gonna try to condense my gushing down to a digestible video length. Even removing the Five Nights at Freddy's moniker altogether, this game stands on its own as a fun and rewarding experience. It's still a little odd that the main title still has Five Nights in it, but Scott stopped caring about that once Security Breach released. It's no different here, but the pace through the night feels much more organic in Secret of the Mimic. There's substance in all 6 hours of this game. Every hour typically begins in the main security office and ends with a big chase or a boss fight. So let's get into the location, Murray's Costume Manor. There are tons of optional areas and content off the beaten path, but there's a point A to point B set up for the story/campaign. The Costume Manor is rundown and several normal pathways are blocked. It's Arnold's job to maneuver around different sections in unconventional ways to get the security clearance high enough to access Edwin's office. The entire manor is interconnected, much like the Pizzaplex. 99% of broken or barricaded doors actually lead to different rooms in the building, with few exceptions. This surprised me given the false windows everywhere. There's actually a really funny in-universe cheeky jab at the fake windows, aside from the fact that it's just simply to help improve performance.
Hello, admins. Let us know if there's anything we can do to make your workday more pleasant, aside from Windows. We've heard your numerous requests, and Ed promises to add Windows very soon. He'll have time as soon as the contract for the new Fazbear project is locked down.
Which I find kinda charming. Most of these windows actually look fine and give off the illusion quite convincingly, but there are like 4 windows throughout the game that probably couldn't convince someone who's legally blind. As for the gameplay, you start your journey by heading through the South Hall up to the 2nd floor near the warehouse manager's office. This is where you meet the boss of the first hour, Jackie. Her chase is 100% scripted, but it's not a mindless run from point A to point B like some games. You're pulling levers and cranking a generator all while she is uncomfortably close up behind you. It concludes in a vent that buckles under Jackie's weight, causing both her and Arnold to fall down. The vent was conveniently located just above the security office. This also marks the beginning of a hilarious running gag where most high-stakes sequences end in Arnold falling through the floor near the next objective and being completely uninjured. Jackie is purely the getting-to-know-the-game boss. Think Lady D from Resident Evil Village. My only complaint about her sequence is just how scripted it is compared to later boss fights, but I admit it's actually very satisfying to do the Jackie chase perfectly with the knowledge of previous playthroughs. Each boss is different from the previous, all while maintaining and building upon the mechanics that you slowly get the hang of while traversing the MCM facility. These sequences are also where the game absolutely shines most in both animation and soundtrack. The next big bad is Big Top up in the showrooms. You need to alternate between playing carnival games for free prize wheel spins and resetting the power in the room. Typical FNAF stuff. The gimmick with Big Top is the mannequins that can alert him if you get too close to them. He also acts as a spotlight. Once you finish the section, the 2nd floor opens up to you for another clearance upgrade. This grants roof access, which is one of my favorite areas in the game. It's so vast looking and the scenery's breathtaking. It's also snowing, which is neat. You don't see weather that often in Five Nights at Freddy's. It's obvious that Big Top is gonna come after you, but how he does is kinda funny. He greets you on the rooftop, but it's pretty easy to evade him. You make it to safety, like 3 seconds later, only for him to crash himself through the roof to chase after you. His arms in the hallway and under the floorboard sections are randomized, which requires you to be quick on your feet. It culminates in a long chase sequence that leads back to the tower stairwell Big Top crashed into, the architecture buckles under his weight, and Arnold is yet again sent plummeting down several feet. There's one thing that's consistent about Steel Wolf FNAF games, and it's that the DJ Music Man sections will never miss, not to mention the absolutely delectable Way Off the Wagon chase music that is playing right now.
Arnold, hey! What took you so long? Don't get lazy on the job now. We need you to stay focused. Come back to the security office immediately. I found the location of another upgrade station.
So it's rinse and repeat. Like most other FNAF games, it overall creates a satisfying gameplay loop where you're doing things at all times. You're constantly busy. There are a ton of cool, simple puzzles around that give the MCM a sort of escape room feeling, kind of like the glitched attraction. The puzzles are actually a bit more complicated than the ones at Ruin, thank god. They start out basically free, and then ramp up in difficulty throughout. Other than that, there are fetch quests, hidden collectibles, shortcuts across the facility, and a pretty substantial number of optional rooms. This place feels about as big as the Pizzaplex, while literally the entire map can fit into Roxy Raceway, which I still think is absolutely wild. So 2 a.m. comes around and it's time to go through the workshop to access the theater. This is one of my favorite locations in the game because of how creepy it looks and how aesthetically pleasing it is. You need to collect Springlock suit parts throughout the workshop one by one to build a suit to enter the theater. Once that is finished, you explore the theater backstage, encounter a white tiger for a few seconds, and ride the lift up to the theater booth to begin the performance. The puppet show performance is a pseudo-boss fight against Mr. Octopus, a jolly fella who probably doesn't know where he is right now. It's really cute first watch, it's probably the slowest part of the game in repeat playthroughs though. Shooting targets, then quick social media break, I guess. The running gag of Arnold falling hundreds of feet continues. He regains consciousness in the recycling center with the doll hospital theme, face to face with Nurse Dolly, the main big bad of this hour.
She is such a bad bitch though. I will the shit out of that robot, man. I'm not even.
She's my favorite boss in the game. You have a phase where you avoid her on a track, kind of like the staff bots in Security Breach. No! But she also changes her pattern. Then she breaks off her track and begins stalking you as you collect garbage to fill the chutes. Once all the trash is properly disposed of, the maintenance tunnel opens and you can begin pulling levers to trip Dolly over the trash piles until she is creme bruleed in the incinerator. She then fucking Terminator style melts through the wall of the incinerator, triggering a short chase on conveyor belts. Toward the end of the hour, there is a scripted stealth sequence involving Molten Dolly that leads you into an elevator. The elevator stops working, as per usual. Fiona helps us get it working again, and that gives Dolly enough time to circle around us and drop onto the elevator. Fiona fat shames us, tells us how to increase the elevator speed, and we crush Dolly's body. Right before that happens, the M2 endoskeleton leaps out of her body and escapes. This is the first time we see the endoskeleton in-game. A short basement section circles back to the main security office to begin the 3 a.m. section. 3 a.m. has 2 antagonists, Party Time Chica and the White Tiger. There's a stealth section in the warehouse that introduces Chica, there's a puzzle involving moving platforms to create a path, then the Chica boss battle takes place in the admin wing. You must avoid cupcake alarms as they will alert Chica. There's also an optional puzzle for a collectible involving all the mailboxes. Once you escape Chica, you get executive clearance and make it into Edwin's office to get the schematics, which was the main goal of the game. You're once again cornered by Chica, so you need to enter a vent in the office that leads to an elevator shaft to basement 2. This is the second and final boss battle of the hour. You must go through a long, dark basement with unwinding tunnels, all while staying in the spotlight and avoiding the White Tiger. Once you're done with this basement section, you circle back once again to the security office for the final time.
You found the schematics. Great. Get back to the security office right away. Time to wrap things up.
So now 4 a.m. begins, and dispatch tells us that we are done as long as we give him the data diver. Any seasoned FNAF player knows that a shift typically ends at 6 a.m. in these games, so something is definitely fishy. What I like about this is that it's pretty obvious that dispatch has had his voice mimicked since 1 a.m.
awesome.
They don't treat you like a dumbass like Security Breach did with Fanny.
That cannot be a coincidence.
And that's all I could ask for, to be honest. You can hand dispatch the data diver and get the bad ending, which is pretty much an extended game over sequence. I think the only reason really to get this ending is for the achievement/trophy associated with it. What you really want to do is access the computer in the security office and run the program called parachute.exe now that you have the clearance to do so. The couch on the left side suspends itself upward and a vent reveals itself. Dispatch warns us that the place is off limits. Since Dispatch has the entire place on lockdown, this is the only place Arnold can go. It leads back to the welcome show area. Once you're there, you use the terminal to start the goodbye show. A pillar in the center of the room with a big red button rises from the ground. Obviously, you press it, and the floor begins descending like the stage lift at the Pizzaplex. There's a short mini-boss sequence with Big Top again as the elevator goes deeper into the facility, and you make it down to the Research and Development Wing. This is home of the Fazbear Project, a mock-up location of the very first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which resembles the FNAF 1 location. The Mimic shows itself as you activate the stage lights and the boss fight against Dispatch begins. You must enter various spring lock suits around the area and place them in front of cameras to drain Dispatch's power in the office. It's a reverse FNAF 1, which was about as fun as you would imagine. As you do this, Dispatch reveals that he's down here too, and that he's not actually M2. He treats M2 as a separate entity to himself. When the power drains, the facade is dropped. This is where it's revealed that Dispatch is actually Fiona, and that she is no longer an organic being. She suspects Edwin is in hiding. The hour is now 5 a.m., and she directs you to a tram that leads to the Murray house from the underground. The tram has a Mr. Helpful Bot. He thinks you're Edwin, tells you today's facts, which is that Edwin has no money, no friends, and no bitches, basically. After that lovely spiel, you get dropped off at an elevator that goes up to the first floor of the Murray mansion, the big house seen at the beginning of the game. I always love when video games do that. The Mimic beats you here since your ride was rather slow. So in the mansion, there are 5 different film reels you must collect while avoiding the Mimic to assemble a code in order to reach Edwin's room to run a program called cradle.exe. These films are color-coded, but you could also get the code by arranging every tape in chronological order, which is colorblind friendly. Thank you, Steelwool. They show presumably 5 different birthdays spanning from David's first birthday all the way up to his last. The first tape is Fiona showing 1-year-old David a pirate fox puppet she made special for him. If you look closely, this is the same puppet that represents Roxy in the puppet show.
About an IOE!
The second, I assume, was mistakenly recorded by Fiona as she went upstairs to get Edwin for David's second birthday. We learn that Edwin is not that great of a father, constantly huddled up in his room brainstorming new ideas instead of being there for his son's birthday parties. In the third tape, Edwin has to break the news to 3-year-old David that his mother is gone.
David, mommy's gone. It's not all gone, buddy. In a way, she's here. She's with us. Mommy will always be here watching over us.
Fourth tape shows a new slide David got for his 4th birthday. Fiona noticeably doesn't sound right here.
Happy birthday, sweetie.
Okay, I need you to take over now and make dinner. I gotta get back to it.
Of course.
And the final one was presumably David's final birthday, revealing that Fiona is...
Fiona, did you make this?
I baked it myself. For David's special day.
Great job.
and that Edwin left David unattended at the playground next to the loading dock.
Okay, everyone hide. Fiona, go get him. I left him out at the playground.
Party room seen in this footage is in the MCM, in the admin wing, and the cake Fiona baked is still there and is covered in mold. After you've assembled the code from the endings of all the films, you head up to Edwin's room and find a secret surveillance room, much like the one in his MCM office. Cradle.exe can be run through this secret terminal. You turn around and the Mimic has ditched all outer casing it'd been wearing since 4 a.m. He's got his exposed endoskeleton in all its glory.
Let me see them pussy lick.
A lever flip later, a secret room within the secret room reveals itself, and you go down the elevator at the end of that secret room. The final chase sequence requires you to run from M2 through the tunnels while the entire property is self-destructing. It's a super incredible sequence, and it's got banger music too. Eventually, you make it back to the entrance of the burning building, bolt to your Fazbear Entertainment branded truck you rode in on, and speed off. M2 stows away on top of the vehicle and crashes Arnold's truck in the middle of the road. It rips the data diver off his person, and Arnold passes out in a burning vehicle. Though it's not 100% clear that Arnold is dead in this ending, it's unlikely that he survived. Though, Arnold did fall like 50 feet 8 times in this game and just walked away with 0 injuries. I'm sure he's fine, honestly. There's also a hidden ending only accessible in New Game Plus because one of the 17 required collectibles, the Tiger Plush, only spawns in New Game Plus. Once you've gotten all the required items, you can fully play through the Moon.exe text-based adventure. It takes around half an hour to beat, and once that's done, you get the glitch permission, which grants clearance in previously inaccessible doors seen in the Murray household. These rooms contain bedtime story tapes you must find and insert into a wall of tapes. The air vent next to the wall of tapes opens itself and it leads to a familiar bedroom. The white tiger plush must be withdrawn from your inventory to place upon the podium located in this bedroom.
Welcome to bedtime. Would you like a story to help you sleep?
Hold on. Someone's missing. David? Where's David?
M2 pushes the closet door open and peeks out. He shrinks down to the size of an average child. I'm sure you can see where this is going. Arnold must press buttons in the correct order to keep soothing M2 with a story. After 4 button presses, which are random per save file, M2 glitches out and a data diver hatch opens from its chest. Arnold fixes M2 and it becomes David.
The moral of the story is that friendship is the real treasure. Now it's time for bed. Your parents love you. Sleep tight.
He falls asleep after the story wraps up, and Arnold actually has a 100% survival probability, so good on him. Too bad this ending isn't likely canon, since the Mimic wouldn't have shown up in the story so far down in the future and ruin. Alternate universe Arnie was finally able to catch a break though, so that's all that matters. This FNAF game actually tells an isolated story in explicit detail, well, more than typical FNAF, about a tragedy involving the Murray family, the family behind Murray Co., and Murray's Costume Manor. In the earliest snippets of info we get, Edwin's father runs Murray Co. and passes it down to him after his passing.
I don't know anything. I can't run a company. I'm not ready. I can't fill his shoes. He knew it. Everyone knew it.
Before that, Edwin uses his autism to impress a coworker named Fiona.
Excuse me, can I borrow your voice for a project?
What for?
I heard you were a puppeteer, and I wanted to record your voice. Just speak into the microphone, and it'll be sent to me like a work memo.
Oh, that's incredible. What do you call it?
I haven't thought of a name yet.
Well, how would you describe it in one word?
I guess I would have to say helpful.
She's immediately interested in him and what he does, since she's also a big nerd.
That's a great name, and I would be delighted to help. What kind of voice should I do?
They fall in love, Edwin proposes through Mr. Helpful, and they have a child named David. The first few and only years of David's life consist of Edwin being an absent father, constantly missing most of his child's birthday parties and neglecting attention to his toddler.
That's great, honey, but you're missing the party.
David's 2 years old. He won't remember a thing.
That's not the point. We have guests.
Besides, he's got plenty more birthdays.
Fiona tries to get Edwin to stop isolating so much, but it just doesn't really go anywhere. Fast forward to when David is around 3, Edwin has to tell him the news that Fiona died at a Fall Fest fire. That implies that she died on or just before David's birthday. After Fiona's death, Edwin gets the idea to make a mimic endoskeleton called M1. This is essentially Edwin playing God and bringing his wife back from the dead. Fiona, or technically F10N4, struggles to emulate the empathetic side she had when she was alive. It's left ambiguous whether or not her soul possesses her synthetic counterpart, but I believe at least a part of her soul resides within that CPU. I think Fiona also at this point doesn't understand how fragile the human body is, as I think she may have watched David go out onto the road and get mangled by a car and didn't really think much of it. She's cold to Edwin about David's death, saying that Edwin could just build David again.
You need to try again. Build another.
Yeah, where he refuses multiple times and even snaps at Fiona for the repeated suggestion.
It wouldn't be him. Oh, who am I kidding? You're really you. I've been so stupid.
Edwin, calm down and give it some thought. Try again. Make another, and we can all be together.
He must have changed his mind somewhere along the way because M2 does exist now. It's safe to assume M2 is Edwin's attempt to bring David back, given the context of the secret ending. Edwin doesn't view M2 as David though, and likely no longer views M1 as Fiona. When M2 begins mimicking his son to try and make him feel better, Edwin violently attacks it.
Stop. You're not him. You're not. Stop sounding like him.
Later, M2 compromises Edwin and...
Test. Journal entry. Too bad the new power test was a failure. Detonation. There is damage to my office interior.
M2, respond. Emergency. Call for help.
Daddy's busy, buddy. Why don't you go outside and play?
Please. I can't move. I can't feel my legs.
You know, speaking of legs, what do you think? I just finished mine. There are still a few kinks to work out.
I'm sorry, M2. I lost my temper. I was always gonna fix you. Please, call for help. M2, respond.
Oh, can't right now, buddy. We can do something fun tomorrow. I promise. Ask your mom.
blows off his legs, mocks his awful parenting, and leaves him to bleed out. I forgot to mention that while all this is happening, Edwin is butting heads with his employees and working non-stop on something called the Fazbear Project. There's an internal shakeup caused by none other than William Afton himself.
Are you challenging me?
To poach all of Edwin's employees and ideas. Rumors fly, schematics get stolen, and William Afton sabotages the Fazbear Project to get Edwin's company in the red. He succeeds. Several of Edwin's original characters are repurposed for characters throughout the Fazbear Entertainment brand. Edwin does not reply to emails, causing William to believe Edwin went into hiding. Fazbear Entertainment sends Arnold into MCM, I assume like a few years later, to retrieve the Mimic blueprints, and that is where the game begins. That's the gist of it, but there's a lot more nuance than I would be able to explain in a video I'm trying to keep relatively short. I grew so attached to Edwin, Fiona, and David throughout the playthrough. Fiona especially. They're exceptionally written, especially for a game in the FNAF franchise. I actually cried at a few key moments during my first playthrough. This is coming from someone who gives zero fucks about the lore and all the past in-game human characters before the Murrays. Not to mention, it isn't directly given to you as per FNAF tradition. It's a lot less egregious than previous entries though. You have to listen to audio tapes and read logs and emails left by people in the past to really put the pieces together. Lore knowledge isn't required to understand the story, in my opinion. It's a perfect pickup point for newcomers to the series as well, since it's a prequel to every other game in the series, and it's much more explicit in its storytelling than any FNAF game that has ever released beforehand. Despite being a prequel that introduces so many new characters, everything makes sense. It's not some, it was all me all along, I am God, I am the true man behind the slaughter, you know, those tropes most people would think of. It's more of a, this new restaurant project of mine commissioned by people I thought were my friends is now being sabotaged by those same friends, all while my loved ones die one by one. It's a much more engaging story than what I initially was expecting, which was the thought that Edwin was responsible for Fazbear Entertainment all along or something. He was simply the brain behind the technical stuff, which greatly improves the character of William Afton. We now have a peek into the shady businessman side of him, which is realistic for his character since he eventually becomes a serial killer, mad scientist guy. It's only a natural progression. I think my only real gripe, the only downside with this game would be the optimization, but that's modern gaming for you. Aside from holding your CPU hostage, it actually runs pretty well. I played it on my Steam Deck and got a consistent 60 frames in most places of the MCM on the highest settings. Chugs a bit in larger areas, but the frame rate stabilizes after everything's been loaded in. Security breaches CPU usage improved after a few patches, so I suspect the same will happen here. Can't have it all, I suppose. The other issue I've seen but have not experienced firsthand is the amount of softlocks and save file bricks that happen during people's first playthroughs on launch. Most, if not all of these softlocks have since been fixed in the first hotfix patch of the game, which is pretty cool. People have also discovered glitches like telekinesis, which is really fun to do and saves time in speedruns. Overall, I think game stability is just Steel Wool's biggest weakness. Time will tell if or when the performance of the game becomes more efficient in future patches. Normally, stability issues and weird bugs cause me to dock points from scores I give games, but none of what I described soured my experience whatsoever. I still think this game is a masterful work of art even with its quirks. It's definitely nowhere near as bad as security breaches instability, which thank god, not by a long shot. You'll most likely just experience visual oddities involving Arnold's arms and weird pop-in loading in large areas. You aren't at risk of falling through a random wall without collision or accidentally triggering an ending halfway through the game though. I've seen a lot of online criticism, only some of it's warranted, saying that it exploded the lore or something and that's just a Poppy Playtime ripoff. You can have wrong opinions if you want, I guess. There are some Poppy-inspired mechanics, but the comparisons are just lazy at best and absolutely delusional at worst. Saying Secret of the Mimic is a clone of Poppy Playtime is like saying Mario is a clone of Sonic the Hedgehog. The story itself, despite hearsay, doesn't affect the content of the games at all. In fact, it retroactively makes the plot points of previous games better with added context. The people outright not giving it a chance also rub me the wrong way. Like, yeah, you can just say you're not really interested in the new game, but I just think reasoning is like super misguided. Just regurgitated points made by 12-year-olds on Twitter who formed their opinion of the game in the first second of the teaser trailer. Judging off the weird narrative people push about this being Poppy with the FNAF coat of paint, I have come to the conclusion that people who think this way are just boring. There's also a lot of general anger towards the price tag, but do you really expect them to price an 8 to 10 hour game the same as the original FNAF games? $40 is also literally half the price of modern AAA games. Whatever. If I talk about that any longer, I might just become the next Joker. In general, I've seen a lot more crash outs from people playing this game than I did when Security Breach launched, and that's where most of my cognitive dissonance comes from.
There's no way. I have to go all the way back here now. I'm done. That's cumbersome and boring.
I did not like this game. I'm not gonna lie. I did not like this game. I'm not even gonna fucking sugarcoat it. I hated this game. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
you could do so.
There's a vocal minority consensus that it's too short, tedious, and repetitive. It took me a few weeks to really understand the why, but I discovered the most common denominator is the refusal to engage with the story and core gameplay mechanics. It made me wonder if people actually enjoyed playing video games anymore. Also, criticizing a FNAF game for being repetitive? Seriously? I think it's just a skill issue, to be honest. Get better at stealth games or just admit you don't like stealth games. It's not that hard. The AI in this game is much less stupid than Security Breach, so you have to be somewhat competent at playing stealth games and engaged in what it wants you to do to beat this one. I'm not even a huge stealth game fan, but the system in this game is really intuitive and generally fair. So yeah, in general, I'd suggest playing the game for yourself instead of going with whatever your fave streamer thinks about it. They're more likely than not just bad at video games, and I'm gonna end my tangent about that there before I get heated. This is straight up the best game in the series in my opinion. If you disagree, cope, I guess. My word salad finally comes to an end. I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of why Secret of the Mimic is one of my favorite games of all time. I do hope to at least convince some people to play the game for themselves and form their own thoughts. I can respect people who didn't vibe with the game. You're not going to make everyone happy, but I'm absolutely thrilled that this game exists. That's all that matters to me. This is like the first time in my adult life that I've actually felt something playing a game to completion, and everything I felt either fell under good vibes or shitting my pants. which is what horror games are supposed to do. I genuinely hope Steelbowl can keep this momentum up. They deserve all the praise and support for creating such a fantastic game for such an ungrateful fandom I'm glad I'm not a part of anymore. Hey, if you made it this far in this video, may I ask for your support, maybe? Like and subscribe, why don't you? It really helps my reach. If not, that's okay.
Was that the